overload reflexes, using the sort of regular commercial tranquilizer you or I take to cushion the shock of moving to a new house, and in no great quantity either. Hartz pondered. You're right. That is amazing. Are you ready to start today's run? I don't have too much time to spend here at Tarnover, you know. Not looking up, the girl in the white plastic said, Yes, sir. He's status go. She headed for the door. Taking a seat at Freeman's gestured invitation, Hartz said doubtfully, Don't you have to give him a shot or something? He looks pretty thoroughly sedated. Settling comfortably in his own chair adjacent to the data console, Freeman said, No, it's not a question of drugs. It's done with induced current in the motor centers. One of our specialties, you know. All I have to do is move this switch and he'll recover consciousness, though not, of course, the power of ambulation. Just enough to let him answer in adequate detail. By the way, before I turn him on, I should fill in what's happening. Yesterday I broke off when I tapped into what seemed to be an exceptionally heavily loaded image. So I'm going to regress him to the appropriate date and key in the same again, and we'll see what develops. What kind of image? A girl of about 10 running like hell through the dark. For purposes of identification. At present, I am being Arthur Edward Lazarus. Profession minister, age 46, celibate, founder and proprietor of the Church of Infinite Insight, a converted, and what better way for a church to start than with a successful conversion, drive-in movie theater near Toledo, Ohio, which stood derelict for years, not so much because people gave up going to the movies. They still make them. There's always an audience for widescreen porn of the type that gets pirate 3V satellites sanded out of orbit in next to no time. As because it's on land disputed between the Billy Kings, a Protestant tribe, and the Grailers, Catholic. No one cares to have this property tribaled. However, normally they respect churches, and the territory of the nearest Muslim tribe, the Jihad Babies, lies 10 miles to the west. My code, of course, begins with 4GH, and has done so for the past 6 years. Memo to Selbs, find out whether there's been any change in the status of a 4GH, and particularly whether something better has been introduced, a complication devoutly to be fished. Maher Shalal Hash Baz. She ran, blinded by sorrow, under a sky that boasted 1,000 extra stars moving more swiftly than a minute hand. The air of the June night rasped her throat with dust. Every muscle ached in her legs, her belly, even her arms, but she kept right on as hard as she could pelt. It was so hot, the tears that leaked from her eyes dried as they were shed. Sometimes she went on more or less level roadway, not repaired for years but still quite sound. Sometimes she crossed rough ground, the sites perhaps of factories whose owners had transferred their operations up to orbit, or of homes which had been tribaled in some long-ago riot. In the blackness ahead loomed lights and illuminated signs bordering a highway. 3 of the signs advertised a church and offered free Delphi counseling to registered members of its congregation. Wildly glancing around, blinking her eyes to clear perception, she saw a monstrous multicolored dome, as though a lampshade made from a pufferfish were to be blown up larger than a whale. Pacing her at a discreet distance, tracking a tracer concealed in the paper frock, which was all she wore except sandals, a man in an electric car fought his yawns and hoped that on this particular Sunday the pursuit would not be too long or too dull. Minor profit in the belly of the great fish. As well as presiding at the church, Reverend Lazarus lived in it, his home being a trailer parked behind the cosmoramic altar, formerly the projection screen, 20 meters high. How else could a man with a minister's vocation afford so much privacy and so much space? Surrounded by the non-stop hum of the compressor that kept his polychrome plastic dome inflated, 300 meters by 200 by 90 high, he sat alone at his desk in the nose compartment of the trailer in his tiny office, comping the take from the day's collections. He was worried. His deal with the Coley Group, who provided music at his services, was on a percentage basis.